when do you know you're ready to own a franchise?
How do you know? Or do
Like,
you ever know, right?
so one of my favorite sayings in the world is, your actions are so loud, I can't hear what you're saying. So someone might say, oh, I'm going to buy a franchise. I'm going to buy 10 franchises. I'm going to be the king of franchising. And then we ask them to fill out an application and we don't hear from them. So it's like action, right? And I think that's the first kind of, hurdle to jump over is like, am I real about this? Like, if I think this through, can I picture myself doing it?
Right. Like, do your actions meet your words? Because franchising is about execution and following a plan. So when people start to go through the research process, they have kind of homework each time, right? Because we want to see, and so do the franchisors, is somebody have execution ability? Can they do what they say? Or do they get a little too caught up in their heads sometimes?
This podcast is for the rebels,
The misfits, the dreamers.
who really are sick of living on autopilot.
Every week, we strip away the excuses, we break the rules, we give you bold, actionable strategies.
So you can crush your habits that hold you back,
Ditch the job you hate.
build a life that you actually want to wake up to.
No fluff,
No permission slips,
just real talk, proven tools, and a healthy dose of rebellion.
to help you break free and rise higher and own your next chapter.
This isn't just a podcast, it's an escape plan.
If you are sick of just following status quo, you have just found your people. Welcome to another episode of 3 Seconds of Guts. I'm Tom Scarda with my co-host, the famous and infamous Melissa Lewis.
Hello, we're so happy to have you guys here. And Tom, thanks for joining me. Great intro.
Now, this is fantastic. I feel blessed and I'm grateful for our friendship and franchising. And today we're going to talk about, when do you know you're ready to own a franchise?
How do you know? Or do
Like-
you ever know, right? So after 20 plus years of helping people become franchise owners, I hear this a lot. And I don't know about you, Tom, of, oh, I don't know if I'm ready. Or the first thing that people will say to me is, I don't know if I'm going to buy a franchise.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
I always think, how would you know? So
Right.
let's talk about it. How would we know? What are a few keys or things that we've heard over the years that maybe show if somebody is ready or isn't ready?
Well, so one of my favorite sayings in the world is, your actions are so loud, I can't hear what you're saying.
That's
So
good to know.
someone might say, oh, I'm going to buy a franchise. I'm going to buy 10 franchises. I'm going to be the king of franchising. And then we ask them to fill out an application and we don't hear from them. So it's like action, right? So that's the first indicator to the person is you're not really willing to do the work. So it's not really, it's a fantasy. It's not really a goal. And I think that's the first kind of, hurdle to jump over is like, am I real about this? Like, if I think this through, can I picture myself doing it?
Right. Action. Well, first of all, you have so many great sayings. Tom is known for like the guy with the best sayings. Are you ready? Like, do your actions meet your words? Because franchising is about execution and following a plan. So when people start to go through the research process, they have kind of homework each time, right? Because we want to see, and so do the franchisors, is somebody have execution ability? Can they do what they say? Or do they get a little too caught up in their heads sometimes? So
Mhm.
I think that's a great one.
And I think, the other big investment that you make in your life is buying a home. For those of us who have bought homes, how do you know when you're ready to buy a house? Well, you have grown out of your apartment or you've grown out of your house at the time. So you got to start looking. But are you financially ready? And that's another key indicator. As I say to people, like, if you're going to get married, you could say, I'm going to get married. I dated my wife for 5 years before we got married. And my brother said to me, Tom, if you don't buy an engagement ring, you never get married. I'm like, yeah, that kind of makes sense. And so, it was all talk and no action. But then, like in franchising, if you start applying for loans or at least doing some investigation on what a loan would look like, or if you could use your retirement money to make that move, which is the most popular way to finance a franchise, um, then you're starting to feel ready.
Right. You're starting to lay the foundation. And what are some of the keys to know if you're ready to even do the research? So, what Tom's saying is, are you starting to be serious and start to lay the foundation? Couple other things here is, are you curious? Are you
Mm.
starting to think that maybe you want something more? You mentioned outgrowing your apartment. Have you started to outgrow your situation? Have you mentally started to wonder, is this all there is? Are there other people? You kind of start looking around and seeing people who start businesses or people who are, taking their kids and dropping them off to school. What do they do for a living? Like you start to get curious about wanting something more. I would say that's a big start to the whole process is maybe I want something more out of my life.
I love that analogy. You've outgrown your apartment. Have you outgrown your job?
Yeah.
That
Right.
is so great. I
You're
love that.
standing.
And you said something else I thought was really brilliant. You don't know you're ready until you take a step,
Right.
right? It's like I have to say this. How do you know when it's time to have a baby? You don't know. It's
You don't
like
really know, are you ever truly ready? I mean, that was the first thing when we came up with this uh this idea for today. I thought the same thing. Like, are you ever really ready to have kids? Not
so
really. There's things though that you need a foundation and you need to have, some things in order in your life, but there's no perfect time. There's no perfect time for anything. But
and
you
that
kind of have to be curious and a bit ready to change.
I think that if you look at famous entrepreneurs of our time and even before our time, they always will say in an interview, like, I didn't know if I was ready. Things weren't perfect, but I knew I had to do it. I just had to do it. I just had to take a step.
Yeah.
And that's how you do it. And what if you don't do it, the way you know that you're not doing what you should be doing is you'll have a low hum of frustration in your life every day,
Right. That's the
right?
curiosity of, I want something more. How do I find it? You start to take small steps, small little
And
bites.
And so you start reading books. So I'll talk about how I started, right? I had a perfect job. I mean, I worked for city government, I had pensions, I like all the stuff that I gave up to do my own thing because my creativity was being stifled. But I knew nothing about business, not a thing. Matter of fact, my personality profile said, whatever you do, don't go into business. I just knew nothing about it. But I knew a franchise was a business with training wheels, and that's what I needed, somebody to hold my hand, show me the ropes. I've come to learn that a franchise is a hands-on MBA. Even if you have an MBA, it's not a true MBA until you really run a business yourself. And so you start reading books, you go to some seminars, you start learning, you submerge yourself in that field, and that's how you're going to figure it out. You can't be, an accountant or a doctor or whatever without submerging yourself in the field first through training. So I highly recommend training, watching videos, listening to podcasts. We got a couple of books we could recommend. I mean, that's how you get started.
You want to just start. I think that's the key. And if it's learning, talking to somebody, meeting another business owner, reaching out to a great franchise consultant, but start the process of education. And how do you know, like, what are franchises looking for to see if you're ready? I think there's probably four criteria or skill sets of people who are successful in franchises. And the first one is that they can follow a system, right? What are they buying in a franchise?
That's right.
Just a
So,
system. That's all
so
it
you got
is. Prove it over and over again.
So would you say that could fall under coachability, like you're coachable?
Mhm. Yeah. If somebody tells you, Tom, if you do X, Y, and Z in this order, and that's how you're going to make money the quickest, are you going to do X, Y, and Z? It's not a question I'm asking for a specific answer because there are people who like to do A, F, Z, and then they quickly, we nudge them on to something else because they don't like franchising. They're too stifled. So
Well,
yes, coachability, following a process.
being obsessive compulsive, I enjoy having my letters in order.
Right. A, B, C. Sorry about that.
Yeah. So it's like, yeah, you were like really triggering me because
Yeah.
well,
Yeah.
I went to I was talking to a therapist and I said, you have OCD. And I'm like, No, I have CDO because the letter be in order.
Come on now, put that back in order. I think
So
you also have to be able to do the process, to execute, right? The execution part. I always say this to candidates of, I can't do your push-ups for you. Like you got to do them, right? That's
yeah,
a big part of it. That's picking up the phone, that's making the first step. I don't think people realize that the first step into changing your life is the scariest part. It's
uh,
just opening it up and saying, I'm worth more. I want more. I want to see what else is out there and get out of this apartment box job that I've outgrown.
but I have to say the thing that I want to say most for this episode was that you have to train yourself, train your mindset to become a business owner. Whether it's a franchise or not doesn't matter, but you have to become that. So it's the journey, which
Yeah.
is actually the really cool part of the whole thing. The end result will be, building a legacy, making money, making philanthropic donations. I mean, that's all the results, but that journey of becoming,
Yes.
right? I heard somebody say once, you have to be rich in your mind before you become wealthy in your bank account.
Yeah. Wealth is not just one thing. It's not just money. It's all of it, being abundant in all parts of your life. And
And
raising your hand and saying, I want more. I
I,
think that's the key part that's so hard for people is when they're grateful for what they have, but they want more. And this is where the power of the and comes in. You can
mhm,
be grateful and want something more out of your life. You can be grateful for your job and all the skills and experience and still want to leave and become a business owner. The
that's
power of the
gold.
and is really important.
That's a great drop. That's awesome because it's so true. But why don't we? Right? We're stuck in the status quo. We're taught to go to school, get a job, and be happy, and then we wake up somewhere midlife. I call it a midlife awakening, and you say like, "What? There's got to be more. There's got to be more. I deserve more."
Right.
And
But then that
and
voice tells you, don't ask for more. You don't, right? Like that voice of you should be happy with what you have. You should
yeah.
be grateful for everything you have.
And then you start making excuses like, well, the guy down the block that owns 10 Burger Kings, it was probably handed down to him from his father, like
Right.
not knowing anything about it. And it probably wasn't. He probably started with one and built it up and all that. But you start justifying like, oh yeah, well, I got to pay the bills. Like I can't quit my job.
Yeah.
I can't just stop. That's what stifles people, stops them in their tracks, unless you start submerging yourself in some good information. I remember clearly working in the New York City subway, working from 6 p.m. to 2 a.m., being on the train between stops, reading a book called Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Love
It's
that.
because of that book that I am where I am today.
It's a great
That
one.
one book.
Yeah. Kiyosaki, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I will tell you, a lot of people I've talked to, that was the beginning. And there's, Think and Grow Rich, starting to plant a seed of how important and how valuable your mind is of what you want. Something I've learned over the last few years is that we forget to dream as we become adults. As kids, that's what we do. But then we're taught to be more analytical, be realistic. I hate that saying, but
Right.
why?
Why?
Why? Why can't we think bigger and have more dreams and continue that? Because whose dreams you have? Yours. I don't have
Right.
your dreams. You don't have my dreams. Why is that?
But then as was said in oh my god, I'm gonna forget the author's name, but uh, "Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway."
Susan Jeffers.
Susan Jeffers, a great late Susan Jeffers. That
Great.
book is fantastic. "Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway." I highly recommend it. It's probably 30 years old now, but she says, "What's the last thing your mom always says to you when you leave the house? Be careful."
Catch myself saying it all the time. And I'm like, yeah. I
That
literally read that book maybe 6 months ago. Again, I've listened.
really,
I've read it. Yeah, recently.
congratulations to
I
you.
was meeting like a group meeting and I had everybody read it. And it's an oldie. I mean, she talks about I think records, not even cassette tapes or something. I mean, it's pretty old, but the message is so good.
It's so good, and it doesn't change. It's from the beginning of time. It's always been fear, and that's what stops people
That
is
is what stops.
fear of the unknown, right? I mean, my phrase, the choice between uncertainty or unhappiness, faith over fear. And
Mhm.
once you build faith and confidence by reading some great books and listening to great podcasts and not 3 seconds of guts, I'm saying like there's a lot of stuff out there. You will become confident and then the business will appear.
It's the internal work first. It's knowing you want more, knowing you can do more. And sometimes we have to borrow somebody else's story. If you find a friend who started a business or, has what you want, read about them. Watch on YouTube, watch some stories, franchisees. If you know anybody, sometimes you got to borrow that in the beginning as you're building it. But the seed, once the seed is planted, that you can do more, that it's possible. That's the first step, is just to say, I think I'm worth more than this, or maybe I want more. I'm going to be curious to find out what's out there.
Yep. It starts with curiosity. It starts with the Google search. It starts with having a conversation with a franchise consultant. This, I think, has been some gold that you dropped. I appreciate this, Mel, so much. Oh my goodness.
It's a great thing to know. You're never going to be ready. Ready is a decision and not a feeling. So make the decision to just take a little step. I have a new video series coming out that talks about the 5 different muscles that you need, the 5 entrepreneurial muscles to become a business owner. Because I also believe you can start training these muscles so you do feel confident and ready. But being ready is a decision and not a feeling. So be ready. Take a small step today towards your goals and dreams because you're worth it.
Awesome.
And
1,000%. Thank you guys. Thanks for listening and check out our next episode coming up in just a few weeks.
share with your friends, please. Share, subscribe, like. We appreciate all of you.